GitLab is a unified DevOps platform that empowers teams to manage every phase of the software development lifecycle, from planning and source code management to CI/CD and deployment within a single application. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I will show you how to deploy a fully automated, self-hosted GitLab instance on Ubuntu 24.04 using Ansible. Once done, we will configure a GitLab runners on Linux VM so your CI/CD pipeline can run smoothly. Before we dive in, we need two VMs. One which acts as Ansible controller. In my case, I have Ubuntu 25.04. The other VM which acts as our GitLab instance on which I'm running Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. As a first step, we need to install Ansible on our controller node, and Ansible requires Python 3 as a prerequisite. Most of the latest operating systems comes with Python 3 installed by default. You can check that by running Python 3 -- version. If Python 3 is not installed, you can easily install it by running sudo apt install Python 3. This should install Python 3 on your machine. Let's run sudo apt update and run sudo apt install ansible-y. I have already installed Ansible and my Ansible version is 2.18.1. Go ahead and install Ansible on your controller node. Once done, we will generate SSH key by running ssh-keygen command. Hit enter. I have already an existing key, hence I'm going to say no. Go ahead and create an SSH key. Let's copy the SSH key to our GitLab instance by running ssh copy id, then the path. Currently it is in .sh and the key is called id underscore ed25519. That's the private key. Then go ahead and enter the username of your GitLab instance. In my case, it is root and the IP address. Let's hit enter. This would copy your Ansible controller node public key into your GitLab instance. Let me enter the password. Once done, we should be able to log in to the target machine without need of entering the password. Okay, I'm able to log in without any issue. In order to install GitLab instance using Ansible, we need to clone the Ansible role. It is called self-hosted GitLab instance, which is hosted on GitHub. I will include the link in the description below. Let me copy the HTTPS link, go back to my Ansible controller node and run git clone command. Let's open it in VS Code by running code dot for ease of readability. Let me walk you through what exactly this role does by going into task main.yaml. It install and configure the necessary dependencies like curl, tzdata, perl, etc. Next, it add the GitLab package repository and install the package. We will check every 10 seconds and retry for 60 times to ensure the GitLab installation is successful. As a prerequisite, we also need to open a couple of ports like 22, port 80, and 443. In the next step, we're going to configure a GitLab external URL. If you go to var section and check the main.yaml, in my case, I have set it to gitlab.mkbn.in because I have a custom domain called mkbn.in. You can change it based on your requirement. Next, it will also go ahead and print the admin password, which you can use to log into the GitLab instance. Let's go ahead and do some pre-work before we can install this Ansible role on the target machine. we need an inventory file and a playbook where we're going to mention the Ansible role to be executed on the target machine. I have a sample inventory file where I have created a host called GitLab, where you need to update the target VM IP address. I will replace this with my target VM IP, which is 20.246.106.10. Then I have a var section where I have mentioned the interpreter as Python 3. Also have defined my private key file and the Ansible user. In my case, I'm running it as root, which is not recommended since it's a demo, it is fine. But in production, it is recommended to run with a non-root user. Maybe you can have a user called Ansible who can execute the task. Next, go ahead and create a playbook.yaml where we're gonna call the setup self-hosted GitLab server as the name. Then you have to mention the role name. In my case, it's self-hosted GitLab instance. Let me update the name to self-hosted GitLab instance. That's all. Once done, we can go ahead and test the connectivity to our target VM by running Ansible -i, pass the inventory file, then the host, in my case GitLab, then use a module called ping. We are able to reach the target machine. Hence, we can proceed with the next step by executing the Ansible playbook. Let's run Ansible -playbook, then pass the inventory, then we called playbook.yaml. Then I'm going to set -v for more verbosity so that we can see what exactly happening on the screen. It is gathering facts. Next, it is running the task, install and configure the necessary dependencies. Next, it is going to add the GitLab package repository and install the packages. And we can see it is running the installation script now. Now it is running the task to check the GitLab installation status. It's installing the GitLab CE. It's updating the firewall rules, ensuring the port 22, port 80, and 443 is allowed. It is updating the GitLab configuration file with external URL. Once done, it runs the reconfigure script to ensure the new changes are in place. Finally, it completed the reconfiguration stage, and also we can see it has printed the GitLab admin password. Before we can access our GitLab instance using the custom URL, which we have configured in our Ansible role, we need to map our subdomain and create an A record in our domain register pointing to our GitLab instance IP. Currently, I don't have that configured, hence I will not be able to access without creating an A record. If you don't have a custom domain and you want to access the UI locally, we can achieve that by adding an entry in our /etc host file. Let me show you how to do that. Let's go to /etc/hosts and we are going to create a mapping from our GitLab instance IP to the custom URL. My IP is 20.246.106.10. Then we're going to enter GitLab ce.mkbn.in. Let's save and exit. Go to a browser. Open a new tab and type http://gitlabce.mkbn.in. Let's hit enter. We should be able to log in using the default username, which is root, and go ahead and copy the password from the UI and enter. Click on sign in. You should be logged into the GitLab and you're able to see the GitLab dashboard now. Let me close this. We are logged into our GitLab instance as an administrator, where you should be able to get more information like what is the version of your GitLab, what is the version of different components, like we are running 18.5.1. For example, the Postgres is on 16.10 and Redis is on 7.2, etc. From here, you should be able to create groups. Let's go and do that. Create a sample group, click on new group and group, call it maybe MKBN tech. I want to keep it private and this will be used maybe to store my code, and click on create group. And inside the groups, you can have different projects. Let's create a project called, or maybe you can create a blank project and call it DevOps. I'm going to keep everything private, then click on create project. You can start using your DevOps repo to store your application source code, your automation script, etc. The most simplest and easiest way to expose your custom domain URL is using Cloudflare tunnels. Let me log into my Cloudflare account. If you don't have one, please go ahead and sign up. We are going to use Cloudflare feature called Cloudflare tunnel. Click on Zero Trust. Go to Networks and click on Tunnels. Cloudflare tunnels allows you to set up a secure connection between Cloudflare's global network and your infrastructure. Let's click on Add Tunnel and choose the recommended option. Give it a name so that you can identify. I'm going to call this GitLab instance and click on Save Tunnel. Based on the environment of your choice, you have different options. For example, if you want to run this tunnel in a Docker container, you can choose the Docker option. In our case, our GitLab instance is running on Ubuntu 24.04 operating system, and we're gonna configure this on a Linux-based OS. So you have a detailed instruction below how to install and run a connector. Let's go ahead and copy this and paste it in on our VS Code. Let's copy the first command and go to your GitLab instance. And if you're not logged in, please go ahead and log in and run the command. This will add the Cloudflare GPG key. Click on paste anyway. Next, we're going to add the repository. And finally, we're going to run apt-get update and install Cloudflare. That's done. Let's head back to our Cloudflare, and you can see you have two options. One, you can run this on your machine so that the service is automatically started whenever your machine is start, or maybe you can run manually. I'm going to choose the first option. Let me go back to my instance and run. It shows that the Cloudflare installed successfully. We can validate by scrolling down, and you can see the connector is connected. Click on next. Now you need to add information like your subdomain and your custom domain and the path and the service type. So we have configured it as GitLab ce.mkbn.in. So I'm going to type GitLab ce. Next, we need to select the domain, which is mkbn.in. Then we need to select the service type. We are accessing it as HTTP currently, and the URL is the IP of your instance. In my case, I'm going to add 20.246.106.10. That's the IP. Even if you see, we are exposing the service as HTTP, but Cloudflare automatically gives you HTTPS access. We'll see that in a couple of seconds. So let's go ahead and click on complete setup. Okay, it says successfully saved the settings for GitLab instance, and we can verify that we have a tunnel called GitLab instance and the status is healthy. Before we can access the URL, let's head back because we have an entry in the /etc hosts file. Let's clear that. Let me delete this line, click on save and exit. Let's head back to our browser and open a new incognito window. And try to access https://gitlab ce.mkbn.in. As you can see, we are able to access the GitLab instance without any issue, and this is actually working with HTTPS, and you should be able to log in with your root username and the password. Click on sign in. Now we have successfully configured our GitLab with a custom URL which is accessible globally. Let us go ahead and configure a runner on our Linux instance so that we can run our pipelines. Let us use the project which we created earlier called DevOps. Go to settings, click on CI/CD and choose runners. We currently don't have any runners configured for this project. Go ahead and click on create project runners. You need to have a tag. We're going to call this Linux since it's going to be running on our Linux host. You can give a runner description and leave the maximum timeout, which is 600 seconds by default, and click on create runner. Based on the platform, you can get the different steps. For example, Linux, or for Mac OS, or maybe for GK, you have different steps. Since we're configuring on the Linux, I'm going to choose Linux. And first we need to install the GitLab runner. So you can click on how do I install GitLab runner? It will give you different steps based on the platform. I'm on AMD 64, so I'm going to copy these steps, go back to my VS Code, open a new page and paste. We need to download the binary for our system using the curl command. Let me run this on my Ansible controller node. Let's give it permission to execute by running the following command. We need to create a GitLab runner user. Let's install and run it as a service. So let's check sudo systemctl status GitLab-runner. It is up and running. That's good. Let's go back. Next, we need to register our runner by executing the following command. Let me copy and paste it. So it is asking you to enter the GitLab instance URL. In my case, it's http://gitlabce.mkbn.in. Click on enter. So we need to copy the registration token from here. Let's paste it. Hit enter. I'm going to call this Linux runner, enter, and I'm going to use shell executor. Let's go back and let's run the following command to start our GitLab runner. I'm going to add an ampersand to run it in the background. Let's go back and you can see you have registered a new runner. Let's click on view runners and we have a runner which is up and running. Let's head back to the repo. We're going to test it by creating a gitlab-ci.yaml file. Let me click on new file. We'll name it .gitlab-ci.yml. This is how you're supposed to name the file. And I have a sample pipeline code. Quickly copy and paste it here. So it basically have 3 stages called build, test, and deploy. It just echoes building the project, running the test, and deploying the application. We need to add the tags which we created so that we can target our runner. It's called Linux. So let me copy and paste it for all our other stages. Let me click on commit changes. I'm going to say added a sample GitLab config file. Click on commit changes. And you can see we have a runner which is running our pipeline. The build job is completed, the test job is completed, and it is running the deploy job. If you click on the build job, you will see it basically echoes building the project. And then you can see deploy. Then we have deploying the application. In this way, you should be able to configure runners and target them to build your application using CI/CD. And there you go. You have successfully deployed a self-hosted GitLab instance using Ansible and configured it to work with a Cloudflare tunnel so that you can access them globally. And also you have configured your own self-hosted runners on a Linux instance and tested with a sample pipeline. If you found this video helpful, hit like, subscribe for more DevOps and automation tutorials. Thanks for watching.